I'm in the intersection of Market and East Bay, and as you can see, flooding has taken over this road here. Anthony Scott, the older brother of Walter Scott, took the stand today. The district office was packed to capacity tonight as parents and concerned teachers, educators all came out to the Sumter School Board meeting with hopes to hear more about this budget, but they left with more questions than answers. The General Assembly has given $28 million to school buses around the state, $45 million less than what the Department of Education says they need. You have to wear these masks right now if you want to step inside of a home that is being gutted out. Well, the cadence count is going on right now. I'm in a sea of orange as fans are just excited, pumped up about this national championship victory. As this image of the Confederate flag behind me will not be the norm at the State House. One of the stops along the tour will be here at Bethel AME Church, which was one of the first African-American churches established in Columbia after the Civil War. What was your reaction when you saw?
I was crying, like literally screaming, crying like a baby.
18-year-old Nia Kinney was in her math class at Spring Valley High when she saw school resource officer Ben Fields forcibly remove her classmate.
I was in disbelief. I know this girl don't got nobody, and I couldn't believe this was happening. I'd never seen nothing like that in my life. Like a man used that much force on a little girl, a big man, like 300 pounds, a full muscle. I was like, no way, no way. Like, you can't do that to no little girl. I'm talking about she like 5'6".
Kinney says her classmate was not participating and was asked to leave the room by her teacher. When she refused, an administrator was called asking her to leave. Officer Fields also asked her to leave the classroom. Kinney filmed part of the altercation on her phone of Officer Fields arresting her classmate.
And I was screaming, what the F, what the F, is this really happening? I was praying out loud for the girl, and I couldn't believe it was happening. I was just crying, and he was like, well, since you got so much to say, you coming too. And I was like, what? And he, would you want some of this? And just put my hands behind my back.
Her mother, Doris Kinney, was shocked and upset when she saw the video.
My child, and I'm not mad at her, she was brave enough to speak out against what was going on and didn't back down, and it resulted in her being arrested.
Kinney was charged with disturbing schools.
But looking at the video, who was really disturbing the school? Was it my daughter, or was it the officer that came into the classroom and did that to the young girl?
In Columbia, Loren Thomas, News 19, WLTX.
The City of Orangeburg does not regulate the location of flags or the display of flags thereon by zoning in any zoning district or any other regulation.
A June 15th decision to agree with an Orangeburg zoning ordinance was argued in front of the Zoning Board of Appeals. The 124 feet of private property where a Confederate flag and monument stand is in a business zone. And attorney Justin Bamberg, who spoke for Tommy Darris, owner of the Edisto River Creamery and Kitchen, believes the flag and monument don't live up to the zoning in that area.
This property is not, nor has it been ever, used for general business or commercial purposes.
But Lauren Martell, representing the Sons of the Confederate Veterans who own the property, urged the appeals board to uphold the decision.
It would behoove the leadership of this group to not overturn a well-founded decision.
After a 30-minute executive session, the appeals board stood by the original decision to not regulate what is flown there, meaning the Confederate flag can continue to fly.
I think the correct decision was made by the appeals board. I do think, of course, this is not it's a matter of zoning, but also a matter of First Amendment rights.
You know, if you live in a residential area and you have a house and it looks like a house, but you're using it as a business, it violates zoning. This particular instance is no different.
Owner Tommy Darris says the flag continues to hurt his business, including on social media.
It's really hard, you know, to eat the kind of comments that we get on it.
As for what's next, the owners of the ice cream shop could appeal the decision that was made and take their argument to the circuit court. Reporting in Orangeburg, Loren Thomas, News 19, WLTX.
I couldn't believe how big he was.
Cindy Richmond and Arthur Kiesler were in shock when they welcomed their third child, Colin Austin Kiesler.
He's a toddler at 3 days old.
Little Colin is not so little. He weighed 14 pounds 4 ounces when he was born. The average size of a newborn is 7 pounds 5 ounces.
I'm glad this is a C-section.
Doctors and nurses in the Lexington Medical Center's delivery room weighed him immediately when he was born and ran tests, making sure he was healthy.
You never know what's going to happen. It's always, when you feel like you've seen it all, something's going to come through, and blow you away, but nothing like a 14-pounder.
Just to put this into perspective, baby Colin's weight is equivalent to the size of 2 7-pound babies, or 3.5 bags of sugar, or a seedless watermelon. Colin's weight was such a surprise that his clothes didn't even fit.
We actually had to send my mom to my house or to our house and pick up different sizes because I brought 0 to 3 and barely anything 3 to 6, and that's what he's wearing at this point.
The hospital also didn't have diapers to fit him. Richmond and Keesler's first 2 children were 7 pounds 6 ounces and 9 pounds 8 ounces. Seeing Colin at 14 pounds 4 ounces at birth gives them high hopes for the future, maybe as a lineman on the field.
For both Clemson and for the Green Bay Packers, so crossing fingers.
As for words of wisdom for future mothers,
just go ahead and buy them bigger stuff because you never know what you're going to get.
In Lexington County, Loren Thomas, News 19, WLTX. Well, it's now come down to 3 House members and 3 senators to come together for a compromise on the roads bill.
To accept what the Senate did and sign off on it, I can't do it.
House Majority Leader Gary Simrell spoke this morning pushing for a conference committee.
What I'd like to do is where we have agreement with the Senate, let's go ahead and get those out of the way. Where we have disagreements with the Senate, let's start working toward those. We want the roads bill to be a roads bill. Those reform components that we have talked about from the beginning, we want to make sure those reform components are in this bill.
He, along with Representatives Brian White and Todd Rutherford, are the 3 House members on the conference committee for this roads bill. Across the hall, Senators Paul Campbell, Ross Turner, and Vincent Shaheen are the conferees.
I think there's things that people don't want to give up. At the same time, I still see some room for both of us trying to find a way to make sure that we make the South Carolinians whole.
I am disappointed and honestly in both bills because I don't think either one of them does enough, but I can tell you the House did a much better job of creating a bill and fashioning something that is going to fix our roads for the future.
The Senate version includes a 12-cent gas tax increase over 6 years, SCDOT reform, and a gas tax rebate. The House's version includes a 10-cent increase over 5 years with a DOT trust fund and reforms.
Now the question is what some of my Republican colleagues insist on, and that is that there has to be some amount of tax rebates to the citizens of South Carolina. What those look like are going to be really the issues that we face.
The conference committee started off by going over the differences between the 2 bills, and they adjourned after about 30 minutes, but they'll be back Thursday morning at 9 a.m. to begin again. Reporting in the State House, Loren Thomas, News 19, WLTX.